second presentation will blend to the overall seminar. So basically this is the work of three. Rizal as well is part of this paper. And then, so me is an economist, Rizal is an economist. The only sociologist is the last guy, the Aryadi, who unfortunately cannot be here. So we are from different universities. The only thing that unites us is actually 20 years ago we were doing master together in London. Back then, 20 years ago, after the Reformasi. So okay, I will start by trying to show you that what if I can show you that we can predict the result of Indonesian elections simply by knowing the percentage of people in certain province that object that their children have friends with different religions. Okay, so basically I'll show that with 80% accuracy. Okay, so here you go. So this is the percentage of people who doesn't like, who okay that their son or daughter, close friend have different religions. And this is the Jokowi Ma'ruf vote in 2019. So the correlation is 0.80. It's too large to be unnoticeable. And so basically, it's something related to this intolerance divide the country also politically. And it does not only this kind of question, but most of the questions seems to be same, including okay, if you build a place of worship around you, or religious activity in your neighborhood, family member, and of course this one is marrying relatively different religions. So they have very strong correlation. So this is for us is a very obvious indications of the divisive politics, identity politics, that maybe it's not really good, I don't know, for democracy. Well, so our contribution. So we already have the paper, the full paper versions ready. So if you are interested, you can just email us, then we can give you the full paper. So the paper that the paper is about. Oh, sorry, so this one as well. So also we are concerned with the rising intolerance, religious intolerance in Indonesia. This is just one of many data or observations that confirm that there are tendency of rising religious intolerance in Indonesia. This is just an example of a survey from LSI that you can see that the trend in recent time, people are becoming more and more reluctant to have leaders, for example, if the leader is different religion. So we start asking, so can this rising religious intolerance be explained by socioeconomic factors? Because that's how we are a social scientist. And also, if yes, what those socioeconomic factors would be? So that's the research question that we have in mind. And we agree that to give a solid answer to this question, I think we need at least three things. The first is, well, we have to have a sound theoretical basis of what socioeconomic factors that will be, right? And because this is very multidisciplinary, so we have also non-economists on board, and so we can explore as far as possible beyond our comfort zones. So that's the first thing that we need to do. And the second one, of course, we have to have an appropriate methodology, the most rigorous as possible. And the last thing is we have to have good data, because we want to show that empirically. And in terms of theory, so from what I'm reading, so there are several theories basically borrowing from sociology and psychology that these various factors may actually affect individual level of religious intolerance. So, for example, they have something called scarce resource theory or social identity theory in sociology, which is saying that actually if you are intolerant or prejudiced to others, it's only because you are competing resources. So this will imply that if you have lower income level and lower job security, you will tend to be intolerant towards other group. And we have also education progressivism theory, which say that if you are more educated, liberal education, you will tend to be more tolerant. And you have social contact theory. Social contact theory means if you are exposed to multicultural, more diverse interaction socially, then you are tending to be more tolerant. But there are also some long-established theory in the sociology, empirically based theory, starting with Gordon Alford in 1950s, which actually saying that people who are more religious tend to be more intolerant. It's very convincing, the theory. So if people are more religious, they tend to be more intolerant toward others. There are also community theory, which suggests that actually the neighborhood around you shape the attitude of you toward others. So this, we borrow from this, and also from psychology, we also understand that actually there are so many unobserved factors that may also play a role. Traits, personality, upbringing, and things like that. That also, but those are many of them are unobserved. So, as an economist, and as a statistician, basically, we can divide this unobserved factor by two. The time invariant, so they just stick there with you. Doesn't change over time, but there are also time variant factors. So, the weakness of certain methodology to try to find how this correlates with this is they ignore this. So, and statistically speaking, if you ignore this, the relationship between these factors with this can be biased. So that's methodological things and methodological constant that most people do. So with our approach, we manage actually to control at least this part. But we need longitudinal data. We need data of survey that asks the same person over time, let's say in 5 years. So that's the necessary requirement to observe this. Luckily, we have that. So here is the, so before that, so basically, so we take account the observed factors. So this is the intolerance, and this is the observed factors, and this is the time invariant unobserved factors, and this is the other factors. So basically, we are using a probabilistic model and trying to do that. And the data that we have is this data. It's called Indonesian Family Life Survey. So it's a large-scale survey and very unique because in developing countries, you rarely have the large-scale longitudinal data, which actually asks you some question on intolerance. So we are quite unfortunate with that. So we have almost 30,000 individuals in the data. I'm not going to go through all the details about the finding because of time constraint. I suggest you guys to read the whole paper, but I will give you 4 highlights of what we found. Okay. So, but before then, to give you, an overview, what exactly the question they asked in this survey in terms of intolerance. So we have 5 kind of questions. First is, how do you feel if someone with different faith from you live in your village? Object or not object? How do you feel if someone with different faith from you live in your neighborhood? So it's more cohabitation in the neighborhood. But here you go from cohabitation in neighborhood to cohabitation that is more personal. So what if someone different faith from you in a room from you? Basically, you can live together. This is more strong. How do you feel if someone with different faith from you marry one of your close relatives? That's very strong in terms of the tolerance. And the last is if you build a house of worship. So this is the intolerant questions in the survey. Okay, so here's the result. Highlight number 1 is this. So religiosity, this is self-claim religious. For level of religiosity, how can you describe yourself? whether religious or not religious. So this is one of the most robust factors. So people who claim themselves to be religious, the more religious they tend to be, the more intolerant. And it's quite robust, so the relationship quite strong across many dimensions, across many specifications, basically very strong finding. Let's highlight number one. Highlight number two, supporting scarce resource theory. Basically, income level and job security is negatively associated with intolerance level. However, the strength of the relationship varies across different types of intolerance. Particularly, if you start talking about interfaith marriage, no, there's no association whatsoever. No way. So the scarce resource theory failed to explain, interfaith marriage. So this must be something else. The highlight number three is, okay, this is very interesting for us. Impact of education is mixed. Okay, basic and secondary education does not have anything to do whether or not we are tolerant or intolerant. Only university education. Only university education. So we start to remember ourselves the time when we were at the university. So we thought that this is not really education progressivism theory, but actually social contact theory at work. Because in Indonesia, very few good university, for example, and they mostly coming from different island in Indonesia. So this is not only the place, university is not only the place where you learn knowledge, but also you are exposed to more diverse individuals. So this is shaping, more tolerant views. That's what we thought. But the implication is also a bit more concerning. It means that if you are thinking of improving tolerance, so basic and secondary education does not really work well. Last one. People tend to be more intolerant, and this is strong and robust from our finding that if you live in a district where inequality high, and you live in a district where so many poor people, people tend to be more intolerant. Statistically quite strong and robust. This is one of our finding. So to conclude, this is maybe personal view. If let's say religious harmony or religious intolerance is something that desirable from societal point of view, what can these findings tell us? Okay. So I think one is, if you see the rising intolerance in the decade of 2000, that coincide actually with two things. First, the rising inequality in Indonesia. So that period, the same period, is the period where you get the most rapidly rise inequality in the world, actually, Indonesia, during that period. That's the first. So that may explain, The second one is the rising religiosity, the rising Islamic conservatism. So these two may play quite a big role in explaining the trend. But what can we do? Let's say, what kind of policy, if it's a subject of public policy, let's say, what kind of policy that may be consistent with this finding? Okay, maybe first is, can we be religious without being intolerant? This is not our area, but I think I just posing question. Can we do that? I think it's possible because Indonesia are very well known for moderate Islamic teaching. For moderate Islamic teaching mean that of course you can be religious with also being tolerant. So that's the first thing. The second one, accelerate higher access to tertiary education. I think that also has basis not only on improving human development, but also on improving religious tolerance. The second one is reducing income inequality with this cannot only be seen from the social justice or economic justice perspective, but also from religious harmony perspective. So we have extra basis for more progressive income taxation policy, for example. So that also that maybe can help to make Indonesia more equitable as well as more religiously harmony with religious harmonies. So I think that's basically what we're going to share, and we can have Q&A. Thank you.